What do you have to say to people who say, well, if this is leaked footage, you know, this is people trying to get out their own agenda. This isn't necessarily credible. What do you have to say to people who say, well, if this is leaked footage, you know, this is people trying to get out their own agenda. This isn't necessarily credible.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you to all the members of NASA's UAP independent study team.
You're a bunch of cowards and lying sacks of shit, and your names are going to go down in history. Watch it. Watch it. Can't believe it. I can't believe it. Can't believe it. You're a bunch of cowards. You're cowards. And it's over. It's done. We know. We have the information. Can you feel that? Huh? Can you feel it? Yo, that face. You had alien tech? Of course you could take over the world.
Skinwalker Ranch. No credible And Kurt, I'll tell you too, if I can. We
Say
hit the
that.
bathroom real quick, by the way. Go ahead. I'm not backing up, but I got to use the bathroom.
It's a tough decision to decide whether or not to participate. You know what I mean? But I'm not getting any work done when I do this. I'm not attacking you guys, the audience. But no, we can.
No, I didn't
let's
feel
keep going.
attacked. I have a feeling some people would think you were attacking, so I wanted to clear the air.
And so, for me, that I just want to get across to people.
Humans may well have murdered human beings.
It's true.
I need to pin you down on this. Are there agreements between non-human intelligences and the American government?
Absolutely.
Why are you doing this? Because everybody watching this right now is looking at your face.
It's totally nuts.
Do you have any kind of mental illness? Why should we believe you?
I am for real. And I'm sitting here.
You're kidding.
Yes. I'm like, either these people are lying to me, they're having a psychotic break, or this is some.
Rash retrieval, what do you mean? Rash retrieval, what do you mean? Rash retrieval, what do you mean? Rash retrieval, what do you mean?
Call it spacecraft, if you will.
Rash retrieval.
Call it spacecraft, if you will.
Rash retrieval.
No kidding, non-human, exotic origin. No kidding, non-human, exotic origin. No kidding, non-human, exotic origin. Call it spacecraft, if you will. Call it spacecraft, if you will. No kidding, non-human, exotic origin. Call it spacecraft, if you will. Call it spacecraft, if you will. Non-human. 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 Call it spacecraft, if you will. Call it spacecraft, if you will. Non-human. Non-human. We crashed.
We have a spacecraft.
We crashed.
We have a spacecraft.
We crashed.
We have a spacecraft.
We crashed.
We have a spacecraft. Spacecraft from another species. Spacecraft from another species. Spacecraft from another species. Spacecraft from another species. Spacecraft. Spacecraft. Spacecraft.
Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. It has been quite a while, and I have been enjoying a glorious little bit of time off at the cabin. We had 5 days and 6 nights there, and except for the fact that we have a very small sort of apartment-sized refrigerator, everything worked and went very well. And but I'm glad to be back. It was good, though, however, to disconnect from the crazy world of conspiracy land, at least for a little while. And while hiking, I think I probably hiked about 8 miles in total. I got a little bit of a chance to think about some of the latest goings on, and I kept coming back to a really big issue that I see with conspiracy land and the world of UFOs and aliens, and what I think is possibly one of the greatest problems that we all face, and that is the lies, the outright 100% incorrect lies of the media. Now, it should be noted, however, that this is due to many factors, including the rise of clickbait journalism, the rise of copy and paste journalism. It's also important to note that this situation with this form of media is not just in the world of UFOs, it's in all subject matters now. So whether you're trying to find information on UFOs and news about UFOs, or really any subject, politics, government, the coming election cycle for sure, and virtually all other topics are just absolutely infected with hundreds, perhaps thousands or tens of thousands of media pieces on the internet which do little or no actual journalism, fact checking, or anything. It is just a world of how can we get as many people as possible to click on this so that we profit. So I thought we would begin our presentation tonight with a little bit about the rise of clickbait journalism and misinformation in the media and on the internet, which has become quite a contemporary challenge of lately. So we'll be exploring the pervasive issue of clickbait journalism and the spread of misinformation in the media and on the internet. We'll be providing a historical overview of this phenomenon. We'll examine the factors contributing to its rise and present some specific examples to illustrate the impact on public discourse and societal trust. We'll also be highlighting the ethical implications of this clickbait journalism and offer some recommendations to combat the spread of this misinformation in the digital age. Now, UFOs is one subject. If you look at a range of different subjects that are affected by this rise of clickbait journalism and what I call copy and paste journalism, UFOs is affected hugely by clickbait, this clickbait garbage. How many of us have seen these articles? And we've all seen them, you know, high-ranking government official says this about aliens, but then when you dig into what was actually said, it's largely things taken out of context. It's just manipulated reality. So in an era characterized by instant access to information, this proliferation of clickbait journalism and the dissemination of misinformation have become significant concerns. And we'll be delving into the historical roots of clickbait journalism, its contemporary manifestations, and challenges it poses to media integrity and public perception. Perhaps some of us just grew up with this being the way that news and information was disseminated. Doesn't make it right, but some of us are old enough to remember when media outlets had to fact check things before putting them out as news. That time and error, sadly, is completely gone now. And we are replaced with a new system of attention-based economy. And we've talked about this before. What do I mean by the attention? We live in an attention-based economy. The more attention that you can garner for yourself, the more profit you can generate. Sadly, this is simply the way that it is. The history of sensationalism in journalism, however, can be traced back to the era of yellow journalism, or so-called yellow journalism, exemplified by the practices of media moguls like Joseph Pulitzer and William Randolph Hearst. These publishers employed sensational headlines and exaggerated their stories in order to attract readership. The digital age has seen a resurgence of these very practices, facilitated by the rise of social media and the economic incentives of online advertising. Clickbait journalism, just to define it clearly, refers to the practice of creating sensational or misleading headlines and thumbnails to lure readers and generate high web traffic. Media outlets have increasingly resorted to these tactics to maximize click-through rates, thereby boosting their profits and revenue. The advent of algorithms and analytics further incentivizes the creation of content that is shareable and generates ad revenue. Now, it's important to note that these practices were once the domain of the bottom-feeding parasites. Outlets that we knew were garbage peddlers, like the National Enquirer. In the United States, the World Weekly News. I believe in England, you guys have a paper called The Sun, which publishes these stories about aliens and bat boys, and, Clinton had my baby, and Clinton had an alien baby, and all of these absolutely garbage stories. However, the rise of the internet, it seemed to be slow at first, but eventually all media outlets started to do this in order to maximize their revenue. And by the way, I talked to one friend of mine who works for a well-known media company who told me not to name him or the company that he works for. But we were talking on the phone about this very issue over the weekend, and he expressed to me that when he started with his media organization 15 years ago, they didn't do any of that. And now they have something like a 25-person department whose entire job it is to find sensational stories that they can clickbait and generate ad revenue with. This will really give you a specific example of just how the world of the news and media has changed in order to fit this new attention-based economy. So we want to take a moment before we forget here to welcome and recognize everybody in the live chat. It's been some time since we've been here. And I also do want to apologize that maybe I wasn't clear enough in that I was going to be at the cabin for a while or taking some time off. I did say that we had some plans we were going to be running classic episodes, but to be quite honest with you, I got so busy with prepping the cabin for my family and children and wife, especially, to be there. She likes a clean cabin. That I sort of forgot to make an announcement or anything like that. So I apologize. Going forward, I'll be clearer if I'm not going to be here for a while. But I do want to thank the few of you, several of you who sent me messages just checking in and making sure that everything was okay because you hadn't seen any live shows for some time. But let's get back to our presentation. We welcome all of you listening on the various platforms on Rumble, Facebook Live, on Twitter, and on YouTube, of course, and Twitch, of course. Let's not forget Twitch. So this clickbait journalism, especially when it comes to the world of UFOs and the spread of misinformation, have significant consequences for public discourse by prioritizing sensationalism over accuracy. Media outlets contribute to the erosion of trust and the polarization of societal views. The prevalence of misleading headlines and exaggerated stories diminishes the public's ability to critically evaluate information and hampers informed decision-making. There used to be a time, and I can remember it, perhaps I was a little too young and naive, but if I put on the evening news, I would just trust that they fact-check things before they put it on the news and that they were providing me with accurate information. Now, I would never simply blindly trust any media outlet. Doesn't matter. Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, NBC, CBS. I don't trust any of them because they all seem to be playing very fast and loose with the facts. And also, there is an issue of political slant. Quite honestly, someone like me who is politically independent, I am neither a Republican or a Democrat. I don't care to have the Democratic slant on things or the Republican slant on things. I just want the facts, just the facts. Give me the news. I don't care about your take on things. Your opinion is meaningless to me. I want pure information, but that seems to be lost today. So there are certainly some ethical implications. And remember, it's not just the bottom-feeding parasite dirtballs anymore, and it's not just the mainstream media anymore. We also have to take a moment to recognize that even once trusted, let's just call them alternative media, or new media outlets have just completely surrendered to this version of media. You know, we can see even people that I would once trust as being, you know, honest and having integrity, like Russell Brand and others, just completely putting out garbage people with garbage stories, like Jeremy Corbell, for example. Forgetting to mention that he's been pushing a convicted pimp fake scientist as a government whistleblower for years now to the tune of millions of dollars. I think that's important. And if you're going to platform somebody like that, you should challenge him for putting out fake stories constantly instead of just letting him put out more fake stories. But this is where we're at, and this is where we find ourselves. But the ethical implications of this new form of media are many. The prevalence of clickbait journalism raises ethical concerns, including erosion of journalistic integrity and the prioritization of profit over truth. I don't think these people care at all whether they're providing accurate stories anymore. I think they care about the bottom line. Journalists and media organizations have a responsibility, in my view, however, to provide accurate and reliable information to the public. We talked here before about there being several people in the so-called UFO media space that are garbage peddlers. They constantly have their hands out begging for money, but they provide no value because they're putting out garbage stories constantly. And these stories have absolutely no value. So the prevalence of misleading headlines and exaggerated stories diminishes the public's ability to critically evaluate information and hampers informed decision-making. You can't make up your mind on a story if you're being fed a constant, steady diet of lies. And this becomes quite challenging because, like many people, I don't have time to fact check every single person on the news that I listen to. I wish that I did. However, I simply don't. But I would strongly caution you that you can't just take what people are reporting as fact anymore. Look at the health crisis and all of the misinformation, fake information, and false information we were all steadily fed. It was, I would say, not spoon-fed to us. It was force-fed to us all throughout that event. That, more than anything, should caution us that we cannot trust any of these people. So specific instances of clickbait journalism and the spread of misinformation can be found across various media platforms, including the mainstream media and the so-called alternative or new media. Notable examples include the misrepresentation of scientific research findings, the dissemination of conspiracy theories, and manipulation of political narratives. These instances demonstrate the potential harm that clickbait journalism can inflict on public trust and social cohesion. So what do we do to combat this misinformation? Addressing the issue of misinformation requires a multifaceted approach. Media literacy education plays a crucial role in equipping individuals with the skills necessary to discern reliable sources and evaluate information critically. We talked about this before. As far as media literacy, I really think what I mean by media literacy is to understand that many people out there in the media don't care if they're lying to you. They only care about the bottom line. We also have to remember that we have to evaluate information critically, because there is a collaboration between technology companies, fact-checking organizations, and media outlets. It's also vital to curb the spread of misinformation and promote transparency in journalism, something that I think can go a long way. Why did so many people stop publishing sources or citing sources? People don't do that anymore because oftentimes their source is from the land of make-believe. So clickbait journalism and the proliferation of this misinformation age pose significant challenges to media integrity and the public trust. If we recognize the historical context and specific examples of these phenomenon, that will be crucial in understanding their impact on public discourse. If we can get at least some people in the media to embrace ethical journalism practices and promote media literacy, also known as trust no one, trust but verify, perhaps. Perhaps society can work towards mitigating the detrimental effects of clickbait journalism and ensuring a more informed and engaged citizenry. Now, besides clickbait journalism, there is another phenomenon you may be familiar with, which we have been detailing here, that we see with these fake UFO and alien stories constantly, and that is copy and paste journalism. And copy and paste journalism is really just as detrimental. And the two of these together will bring many new challenges in correcting falsehoods propagated by major and even minor media sources. Copy and paste journalism refers to the practice of uncritically reproducing information from other sources without rigorous fact-checking or any verification. What we can say about this copy and paste journalism is that it underscores the importance of accurate reporting and highlights the difficulties associated with correcting falsehoods. We have seen, you guys know that I'm fond of this saying, the amount of energy it takes to dispel bullshit is twice as much as it takes to generate it. So once these falsehoods get out there, it becomes very difficult to correct the record. Look, for example, at the New York Times article about the so-called ATIP program and Lou Elizondo. It took 5 years for that record to be corrected, and Lou Elizondo is still calling himself the former head of a Pentagon UFO program that never existed, was never funded, and came from the land of make-believe. So lately, we have seen a rise of copy and paste journalism and the proliferation of digital media and the increasing pressure to break news quickly. And these things have contributed to the prevalence of copy and paste journalism. And in the quest for timely reporting, some media outlets prioritize speed over accuracy, leading to the propagation of misinformation, the spread of false narratives, and the spread of completely 100% factually incorrect stories. We have seen this time and time again. How many media outlets did we see copy and paste this Dave Grush so-called whistleblower story? Nobody fact-checked anything, nothing. They just copied straight out of the debrief and used phrases that we have seen a big rise in lately, like, according to the debrief, this absolves everyone of any responsibility for any fact-checking or, actual investigative journalism work before posting a story. They simply copy and paste from whatever source they want, and then they say, according to that other media source. So there are certainly falsehoods, and these relate to public perception. When major or even minor media sources disseminate false information, the impact on public perception can be extremely profound. Falsehoods can shape public opinion, perpetuate misinformation, and polarize society. The credibility of these less than scrupulous media outlets and trust in journalism are completely eroded lately. Ask yourself to think of 5 journalists who you trust to bring you accurate information. If you're anything like me, you will have a hard time coming up with the names of 5 journalists that you trust to bring you the truth about anything. And I think this is a major change from, let's say, even just 20 or 30 years ago. 20 or 30 years ago, I think most people trusted those media sources on their television, reading them the nightly news. And this erosion of the trust of journalism undermines the crucial role of journalists in fostering an informed citizenry. I think we are less, even in this ridiculous digital age where we have a device in our pocket to get news 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, minutes after it happens, we know about it. We still are not an informed citizenry because we are inundated with false information constantly. once false narratives gain traction in the media landscape, as in the case of Lou Elizondo's completely fake story of a fake Pentagon UFO program that never existed, correcting them becomes an extremely arduous task. The rapid spread of information online, the echo chamber effect, and confirmation bias exacerbate the challenges of debunking falsehoods. Corrections often receive less attention and have a diminished impact compared to the initial false reports. And let's talk for a moment about so-called fact-checking organizations, who I don't trust them either. Fact-checking organizations, some people say, play a vital role in countering the spread of misinformation. But these so-called independent entities somehow, or at times, are not quite as independent as they pretend to be. Some say that they employ rigorous methodologies to assess the accuracy of claims made by media sources. However, their efforts are sometimes called into question when it comes to things like religious bias or slant, or political bias or slant. These organizations are also sometimes plagued by limited resources, public distrust, and difficulty in reaching a wide audience. So this copy and paste journalism raises ethical concerns regarding journalistic integrity, accountability, and responsibility to verify information before dissemination, just like clickbait journalism. Media organizations must prioritize accuracy, transparency, and ethical practices to maintain public trust and uphold the principles of journalism. And this may be why independent or let's call it capitalist journalism is a bad model. Perhaps some of the countries who have state-run journalism may be a better model because they don't have a financial motive to get stories so wrong. And here in the United States, they do have a financial motive to get things incredibly wrong. Addressing the challenges posed by copy and paste journalism requires a collaborative effort. Media organizations should emphasize rigorous fact-checking, invest in training journalists in verification techniques, and foster a culture of responsible reporting. And just to be clear, we try our very best to do that here. With the limited resources we have, we do the very best job that we can to bring you accurate information. Improved media literacy education can empower individuals to critically evaluate information, fostering a more discerning audience. And in conclusion, I would say that copy and paste journalism presents significant challenges in correcting false narratives propagated by these for-profit media sources. I believe that the rise of clickbait journalism and copy and paste journalism is a huge risk to a free and open society. Because if people are spreading completely false information, they're not helping, they're manipulating us. So are all of our media outlets simply manipulating us for one purpose or another? I think so. I think that all of us need to be very vigilant in consuming online information. And we also should bear in mind the track record of the people bringing us information. And the best example of this that I can give is Ross Coulthart, who has been caught selling 100% completely and totally fake stories, huge, big, sensational fake stories, at least a few times now before he ever got to the Grush story. And for people to just explain that away as not relevant to the Grush story, you know, maybe you want to live in the delusional fairy tale land where somebody's track record of selling fake stories isn't relevant, but I don't live in the land of make-believe. And the fact that Ross Coulthart has been involved in several 100% provably fake stories that were over-sensationalized, overhyped, and then he under-delivered. It's been almost a year now since the Jim's Balls story, right? Where he promised, quote, conclusive proof of alien technology, all confirmed by this man. Cut to a shot of Michio Kaku. Go ask Michio Kaku if he confirmed alien technology. He didn't confirm shit. because Ross Coulthart not only did not have conclusive proof of alien technology, he had no proof of anything. And this is extremely important. Now, one of the things that I've noticed is that all the media outlets covering Grush are mentioning this 1930s UFO crash, which is extremely problematic to me because I did my due diligence researching that case, and it is a completely and totally fake case that's cobbled together, added on to fake documents from an anonymous source, from an archive that doesn't really exist. It's kind of like the Italian version of the MJ-12 documents. And I find it no coincidence that the story came from a friend of Lou Elizondo. And we have heard through Brian Bender that Lou Elizondo has been, quote, grooming Dave Grush, unquote, for several years now to take this new media personality gig, right? That's not a coincidence. And why is Dave Grush saying that he was, quote, briefed on this Italian UFO crash, unquote, briefed? I love that they all use the term briefing. They're getting briefings. I believe, and it's my opinion and speculation, and I'll freely admit it, that the person who gave Dave Grush that information was Lou Elizondo, who was in Italy not long ago with the very person who is pushing that story. I don't think it's a coincidence, right? So there is an incestuous relationship among all of these UFO grifters, right? It's a big club, and I ain't in it. So I can tell you the truth because I'm not part of the UFO circle jerk gang. And by the way, we are going to be naming and shaming you UFO circle jerkers. If you are going to just completely and totally repeat lies from UFO celebrities while you're licking their buttholes, we're going to name and shame you. We are going to start playing clips from we're going to have the UFO circle jerker of the week. And you know who I'm talking about, that UFO podcast. Oh, the Good Trouble guy, right? Come out of nowhere, stole somebody else's entire show format and even, like costuming. And suddenly, huge show all of a sudden, right? And why? Because he does the UFO circle jerk. Let's put these people on and let them lie to everybody, and I'll get my 40 pieces of silver. Congratulations, you dumb dickhead sellout loser. You're not helping by sitting there like an idiot, letting people lie to your audience. And then the clips go everywhere of that person lying. And we see this repeated echo chamber of lies, this whole false reality that is being created and generated by lying scumbags. And I'm not having it anymore. It used to be that my bullhorn was not quite big enough to really make an impact. But lately, we've been growing. And I'm going to do all that I can to combat this clickbait garbage journalism, this copy and paste garbage journalism, and these UFO circle jerkers who are licking the assholes of UFO celebrities in order to make money. If that is your plan for your financial future, is that you're just going to keep doing that to make money, then I'm going to be the thorn in your side that will stop you from doing that. Get a real job, loser. We don't need people here who do not contribute anything, but they sure have their hands out. Take, right? We gotta make money for our echo chamber here so that we can just keep helping these people, these scummy dirtballs who have been lying to people for years, in some cases decades, keep their grifts going. Could you imagine, like, when these people were children, right? And somebody said, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up with? Oh, I want to be a UFO celebrity ass licker. That's what I want to be, right? This is your plan for your show, is to just sit there like an idiot and let these people lie to everyone. But that's what we have here. And we're going to start calling them all out by name. We're going to play their clips. We're going to war with the circle jerkers. Get ready, dummies. I'm coming for you. I'm coming for all of you. But back to this Italian UFO case. I did my due diligence. I really dug into this case. I found everything that I could find on this Italian UFO case. And when I was done, I was thoroughly convinced that, number one, that case is completely fake. And the documents that so-called, that people are clickbait articles, stunning evidence of Italian UFO case. What's stunning evidence? Some fake documents? People are even writing articles, putting a sketch that's attributed to this 1930s Italian UFO case that don't go with that Italian UFO case. That's from some other case. They're conflating two UFO cases in order to sell the false narrative. I dug into this story. It's a fake story, friends. This story of this Italian UFO crash is completely and totally fake. Now, I have written to the Vatican media office asking for comment. We're still waiting to hear back. I have written to the Italian government asking for comment or to verify the documents. We're still waiting to hear back. But in the meantime, I decided that I wanted to be completely sure. Why is Dave Grush running around promoting a completely and totally fake UFO case? And isn't that a huge red flag if he's running around telling people, I got briefed on this Italian UFO case. And it just so happens that the guy who groomed me, the guy who ran the fake Pentagon UFO program and hasn't had a real job in 8 years and has been living off of UFOs, briefed me on this fake UFO case from the 1930s, right? Doesn't that like destroy this guy's credibility? I would think so. Oh, sure. Yeah. But we all pay the truth tax. Do you know we all make 1/10 of what the UFO grifters make? Probably less in some cases. So get out of here with your garbage. Come back with evidence, you dickhead. Come back with some evidence. Show me I'm wrong. Don't tell me I'm wrong. Show me I'm wrong, you dummy. All right. It's been a long time since I started yelling at stupid people in the live chat, but I just have no patience for idiots anymore. So this isn't the place for you. Go to a circle jerk show, buddy. Go to a circle jerk show and hear some fairy tales, you idiot. All right. Now we want to thank Larry Love for a kind and generous $1.99 super chat, who says, I think the UFO industry is a multi-million-dollar one. I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, Patty, thank you. And thank you for being a member. I appreciate that. They're sellouts, right? Why? No, a sellout is somebody who goes along with the lie in order to make the big money. You don't get this because you're an idiot. But if you tell people the truth, you're going to make a lot less money than the people that are willing to lie to everyone. But back to the Italian UFO case, I wanted to be sure. I wanted to be absolutely positively sure that I wasn't wrong on the Italian UFO case of 1930s. So I reached out to some other researchers, and I did get feedback from multiple of them. But Jeremy McGowan of the Osiris Project was kind enough, and you may remember that Mr. McGowan, was intimately involved in some of this Elizondo stuff, and his blog paints let's just say not so heroic reality of Mr. Lou, I have superpowers, I'm a psychic Elizondo. So I wanted to be sure, and several people, but most notably Jeremy, will use the other pieces in another show. Jeremy McGowan was kind enough. I asked him, can you go over this UFO case and tell me what you think, and my viewers what you think? He was kind enough to research the case like I did, and he came to virtually the same conclusions, which I think is great. But this will show you that two researchers, listen, do you know how you know something is the truth? When two researchers can research the story and come to similar or the same conclusions, that's a pretty good indicator that you've got the truth there. And by the way, I have more researchers, including Jeff Knox and others who have also researched this case. Jeff Knox is screaming from the rooftops on Twitter that the case is completely fake. And why do people keep citing this case? Because the problem is that all these media outlets are citing this fake, 100%, in my view, fake Italian UFO case from the 1930s, which has been debunked for 20 plus years. They're citing that as like their evidence or proof of this man, Dave Grush's claims being true. And I'm sorry, but the case is fake. So why would a so-called high-ranking government intelligence official be getting briefed about a completely and totally fake hoaxed UFO case? Could it be because Lou Elizondo is an idiot and he believes things? He's been caught before playing fast and loose with documents, right? There was a famous case of him being on a major media outlet claiming that he had recently declassified documents, and they were declassified 30 years ago. He is not a good judge of whether a story is correct or not. Lou Elizondo strikes me as like one of my friends who just recently got into UFOs and just believes things, and he doesn't actually do the research to determine if the story is true or not. He just, oh, there's documents, it must be true. So it's my personal belief and speculation that Lou Elizondo is the person that told Dave Grush about this story, which means that largely a lot of this Dave Grush's information may be coming from UFO grifters, which means it's probably not very accurate or valuable information. Because if this information was accurate or valuable, the grifters themselves would have put it out. They wouldn't pass it along to a new talking head. Let's push this guy into the spotlight and load him up with fake UFO stories, right? But it is what it is. Jeremy McGowan is most well known for UAPX and also the Osiris Project. He's a good researcher, and I trust his judgment. So I'm glad that he could chime in here on our show. He did a piece for me that he recorded on this Italian UFO case. And I think it's important that we educate ourselves about what kind of information this so-called whistleblower, Dave Grush, what is he blowing the whistle on? Hi, the Italians recovered a UFO in 1933. No, they didn't. At least it appears that this case is completely and totally fake. But let's get into Mr. McGowan's breakdown of this Italian UFO case.
Hey, Stephen. Apologies for not being able to schedule a time where we could actually do this live. Work has had me consumed a lot as of late, but I did manage to record this, so hopefully this gives you and your viewers some insight on what I think of the Grush statements regarding the Italian crash retrieval event.
1 second, friends. Seems to be a sync issue, so I'm going to go with the raw file. 1 second here. That's not good. Okay. 1 second, friends. Let me get his raw file. See what happens when you try to fancy something up a little bit? The sync seemed to be off. And that's an issue with my video editor. So just bear with me for one moment here. I'll get his raw file and we'll share it that way so that the sync is not off. 1 second here. So isn't it interesting that Lou Elizondo is directly connected to this person, and Lou Elizondo went to Italy and hung out with the very person that is pushing this story? I don't think that is a coincidence, especially when you consider Brian Bender and others who are connecting Mr. Elizondo directly to this so-called whistleblower, Dave Grush. Okay, I have the raw file. We'll share that one here. That'll be better.
Hey, Stephen. Apologies for not being able to schedule a time where we could actually do this live. Work has had me consumed a lot as of late. But I did manage to record this, so hopefully this gives you and your viewers some insight on what I think of the Grush statements regarding the Italian crash retrieval event. Now, to be fair, I haven't exactly had my head buried in research on this because I normally don't pay much attention to historical stories. So bear with me if I get some details off, or if things might be a little wonky here. But I think you'll get the gist of my take on everything. And if I make a mistake, please let me know where those details are wrong, and I'll try to make a correction or verify that that whatever is said is actually correct. So, from what I gather, Grush has had a few interviews where he's gone on about how Mussolini's government got their hands on a crashed UFO back in 1933. Then, as World War II was wrapping up, our government, supposedly managed to scoop up the wreckage with a little help from Pope Pius XII. So the first thing we have to do is look at the absolute fact that this is not new information. It's not fresh news. The UFO world has been chewing this over, arguing about it, and mostly debunking it for over 20 years. But because Grush is the one that's telling this tale now, there's a bunch of new ears that are hearing it for the first time. Including a lot of senators, government people, and folks who've just caught the UFO bug. Now, John Greenwald of the Black Vault was the one who put out the Mussolini documents, or hosted the Mussolini documents, where they show all the juicy details. But thanks to folks like Chris Sharp of the Liberation Times and a few others, there's a whole heap of misinformation and outright lies being spread around about this entire thing. And it should be cleared up. Now, in this latest version of the event, we're being told some tall tales, like the one where they pulled Nordic aliens from the wreckage and mistook them for German soldiers, and then later found out that they weren't German soldiers and they were in fact Nordic aliens. And then there's what I call copy-pasta journalism, that's peddling the idea that this was a bell-shaped craft, which could be the little spark behind the Nazi bell of UFO lore. And a lot of this nonsense has slipped into Grush's testimony. Now, what we have to do, the trick, is to look back to the original stories and follow the trail over the past 20 years to see how things have been warped and merged into the story that we're being told now. So this all kicked off back in 1996 with Robert Pinotti. Robert was an Italian journalist, an aerospace journalist, a ufologist, and an author known for his deep dives into UFO sightings and related things like that. Now, Robert claimed he had copies of government documents from the 1930s that detailed numerous UFO sightings, including the alleged crash and recovery near Milan in 1933. These documents also talked about a secret group that apparently Mussolini had put together, which was called the Gabinetto RS-33. Now, the Gabinetto RS-33 is supposed to be this secret group that was allegedly established by Benito Mussolini, the director of fascist Italy. And according to these narratives, Mussolini established it to study and analyze the wreckage and any potential technology from the crashed object. Now, over the years, Pinotti has put out loads of material about these, fascist UFO files, as they're called, and he kept poking around the topic. His stories have been kind of a moving target. he's even brought in some of Billy Brophy's claims into his recent work, which caused a stir because, well, let's be honest, Brophy's stories really never stay the same. Now, Brophy, his dad was William Brophy Sr., who was an Air Force pilot back in the 1940s and 1950s, who said he'd seen a lot of UFO events. Now, Billy started pushing his story back in 2003 when he sent in letters to a British tabloid called the Flying Saucer Review. Now, in those stories, he claimed his dad knew about a UFO crash in Italy in 1933. Billy Brophy was also the first one to say that the crash involved Nordic aliens, and that the Pope had helped the U.S. government retrieve the bodies in the wreckage. That all came from Brophy. But to really get to the bottom of things, we got to go back a little bit further to 1996 and take another look at Panotti's alleged documents from the Mussolini government, which were, of course, sent to him by an unverifiable, undocumented, and completely anonymous source. Now, in these sketchy documents, there are multiple reports of sightings that start back in 1931 and talk of the supposed crash and recovery of a vehicle near Milan in 1933. But in the original files, there's not a peep, not a mention, not a single word about recovered bodies, but especially no Nordic ones. There's no mention of Pope Pius. There's no word about the government getting their hands on the wreckage. All of that got tossed into the mix by Billy Brophy based on his dad's supposed inside information. Even the always changing account from Brophy has been twisted and tweaked by writers who followed it. They add their little spin to it. But it's crucial to remember that Brophy's tales have been a game of like telephone for the past 20 years. Always changing, never staying the same, details always getting added, stories being more grandiose every time they're told. So back in 2003, he started by telling the Flying Saucer Review about the Nordic bodies. But at that time, the Nordic bodies were supposedly found at Roswell, according to Brophy. But he didn't say anything about Italy. And then later, Brophy changed it up to include his dad witnessing a crash in Mexico in 1950, totally unrelated to Italy. But then by 2010, Brophy's tale had a new twist to it. By then, he was saying at a UFO conference in Milan that his dad knew about the 1933 crash in Italy, this time involving the Nordics. Now is when he said that Pope Pius told President Roosevelt about all this, leading to the American retrieval of the wreckage. And for the first time, he suggested that the craft was bell-shaped. So just based on that alone, the story has changed, 5-6 times? Now, unfortunately, it seems that Panotti, like a lot of copy pasta journalists, just take Brophy's story at its face value. And since it included in his last work, like the 2020 article for Black Vault, the details are just constantly different than the previous version. So, Lou Elizondo, who everyone knows, has been talking about the 1933 crash in various ways and references on a few podcasts in the past. Lou is also tied in with Panotti. Panotti was one of the people that Lou appeared with on the show Unidentified, and when they were talking about the helicopter being shot and things like that. David Grush is attached or familiar or associated with Lou. So it's just a big giant circle of repeating grandiose stories that grow every time they get told. Now, back to Grush. So Grush is parroting this same narrative, including the crash retrieval by the U.S. government. But he has switched out Pope Pius the 10th for Pope Pius the 12th, and he's trying to make it sound like he got classified sources, but it seems like he's just regurgitating the fascist UFO files from the 1990s. Now, he's also taken on elements of Brophy's shaky and ever-changing story. Thankfully, Grush has not mentioned anything that I know of about Nordic bodies and things like that. And if he did, the story's credibility would take an extremely serious hit. My personal guess is that Grush heard about this from Elizondo, who got it from Pinotti, who probably just looked at the same Mussolini documents that have been available online for years. And this could be a major case of misrepresentation, and that's a problem. If you look at where these stories originated, especially from Brophy, you can see how this whole thing could turn into a real embarrassment for Grush, for Elizondo, for Rubio, for any of the senators that are taking this at face value and creating legislation and talking about it as if it was fact. My opinion is this never happened at all. So there you have it. That's my take. Hope that helps.
All right, friends. So there we have it. Completely fake story cobbled together. The involvement of someone who has somehow claimed to be involved in several so-called UFO crashes. I really believe that that story is fake. And the fact that Mr. Grush is pushing that as a story, even claiming that members of the United States government briefed him on that story being true, well, then we need him to answer some questions. Who briefed him exactly? What was he told in the briefing? And considering this is a, 70-plus-year-old story, it can't be classified by nature, right? I just can't get my brain around why Grush can't tell us who briefed him. It's obviously not classified information, wouldn't be protected by any NDAs or anything like that. Why would the United States government be briefing other members of the United States government about completely fake UFO stories that have been debunked for 20 plus years and also been out there for 20 plus years? And B. Baker is correct. This is another trust me, bro. It's really troubling to me that Lou Elizondo is so, we'll just say, not careful in his attempt to manipulate members of the UFO community and the media. If this story were true, it would have been proven true 20 years ago when it first made the rounds in the world of UFOs. However, it should be noted that information on the case, if you're living in the United States, is a little hard to Google. There are a bunch of articles on it, but they're all in Italian, so you have to get the articles, translate them. And there's, of course, little problems with Google Translate, but I think we can clearly establish that the story is fake. Why then are so many media outlets including that as their prover maneuver? In other words, oh, this Dave Grush guy must be on the level because he was briefed about an Italian UFO crash where we recovered bodies and everything, and it was a bell-shaped craft in the 1930s. The Pope and the Vatican and this vast cover-up were involved, and the United States came and got the craft. This would be a massive conspiracy if true. Hundreds of people would have had to kept their mouths shut this entire time. There is no credible witnesses to the event that have ever come forward. There is no credible corroboration that the documents, that the so-called supportive documents of that are shown as proof the case is true, are real. And in fact, most experts who have looked at the documents claim that they are fake documents. So we have a fake UFO case supported by fake documents being propped up by someone I think that so far is a fake whistleblower. A real whistleblower has evidence. They don't have secondhand stories that they were told by other people. And we want to thank Larry Love for a kind and generous $9.99 super chat. Says, I'm so tired of secondhand stories. They never show any evidence, and they all have nonprofits that bring in nonprofits. If they don't have that, it's a book deal or TV deal, but no evidence. You are correct, Larry Love. There is a financial motive behind most of these people who are disseminating these largely fake stories. And I did see and notice this drama in the live chat. I'm just not going to get into people who have personal axes to grind. UAPX made a mistake in hiring a subcontractor. We even reported on that. Mr. McGowan gave his explanation for that. It is what it is. We can agree to disagree on that and still agree on other things. And what we always have to remember is that people have personal axes to grind against certain personalities. And people love to point me like a missile at people in the so-called UFO landscape that they don't like. And quite honestly, I'm going to try my very best to not get involved in personal squabbles between different UFO personalities. Let's leave it at that for now. But as far as Christopher Altman, I did research him, and the guy lied about his education, and he lied about a lot of his so-called accomplishments. Go look up Christopher Altman and look at his bio. It reads to me like somebody who is claiming to be some kind of super genius, but it's a long story. You could buy the book, but not from me. Larry Love with a kind and generous $4.99 super chat. Lou Elizondo, the Puppet Master, coming to a theater near you. Yeah, I do believe that Lou Elizondo is the puppet master behind this. That's my personal belief, and I'm entitled to that based on seeing. Remember that Lou Elizondo completely and totally manipulated the UFO community and members of the media for years. So if he could be successful manipulating the New York Times and so many other media outlets into publishing completely fake stories, painting him as some kind of UFO hero, why would it be such a stretch that he groom, as Brian Bender has said, and put this Dave Grush guy out here to talk to members of the media and push these narratives? And that Lou Elizondo, the Puppet Master, coming to a theater near you. Thank you, Larry Love, for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. It is much, much appreciated. Now, I have some more things to share because, we have to also remember that this Dave Grush story was put out with absolutely no evidence. Just, I heard, people told me, and other things, right? So there was no evidence actually offered in the initial story. And in fact, the few things that some people are claiming were evidence, like this Italian UFO crash, they're claiming that was evidence that this guy is on the level. That's not evidence. Those are red flags that this man is being manipulated or is manipulating us, right? Randy 1979 says a lot of these grifters had their Freon leak out of their heads and now they are all empty. Yes, it could be, right? We have, Larry Love says, we have Corbell, his start as well. Lou Elizondo is planting these weeds all over the place. I absolutely agree with you. And Mark Turan is here and says, Elizondo is the self-proclaimed destroyer of current day ufology. And Sandra McDonald is here with the kind and generous $7.99 Australian, and thank you as well for being a member. And we thank all of our members. You tell them I'm a super chat hero with my Truthseekers shirt on. Well, thank you for all three of those things, for being a member, for buying some merchandise. By the way, the links to purchase some merchandise are in the description of this video. That's a great way to help the show. Get yourself some gear as well. And thank you for being a member, and thank you for the kind and generous super chat. Praise the cash, friends. Siren is here. Siren says, reading Dave's face, he was lying, just repeating the story they told him to tell. Digital Vortex is here and says, documentary almost done. Few weeks, we'll release it into the wild and let the chips fall where they may. Well, send me a copy, Digital Vortex. It's truthseekershow@gmail.com. That's the best way to get a hold of me. Email me there at truthseekershow@gmail.com. And maybe we'll do a review if it's a good piece. But please don't send me something that's terrible and expect me to review it. Sometimes people send me some wacky stuff. Steve Nicholson, personally, I think this is just a diversion from the Hunter Biden laptop and bribe scandal. Oh, yeah. And let's not forget the cocaine scandal. I think this is the first time in American history that cocaine was found at the White House. And isn't it great, Steve Nicholson? They find cocaine at the White House, the most surveilled building on planet. There's cameras everywhere in the White House, but they can't determine where the cocaine came from. They got cameras everywhere in the White House. How can they not determine where the coke came from? Somebody's doing coke in the White House, and I think I know who that might be. Frequent visitor to the White House, perhaps, but I'm not going to say that because I don't have any evidence or proof. So I have a little bit more to share with you, friends, because this story is literally falling apart. And the people that are pushing it, I think the people that are pushing it are all have been pushing fake stories in the past, right? Interesting that so many of these grifters that we all know and are aware of are directly connected to Dave Grush. He is directly connected to Gary Nolan, Ross Coulthart, Lou Elizondo, Eric Davis, and more. Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. And one of the things that I think is very interesting, and we have to be sure that we are aware of this, is that the parent company of News Nation, let me make sure that I get this right. The parent company of News Nation is also the parent company that owns George Knapp's television station in Las Vegas. And they also helped George Knapp start his Mystery Wire show. So isn't it interesting that the same parent company is involved with the Las Vegas television station pushing this garbage, is involved with George Knapp's Mystery Wire program, which is pushing all of this garbage and has been for years, and also involved with News Nation, who is pushing this Dave Grush story. Same guy, same parent entity controlling all of these media outlets who are all pushing this Dave Grush story. I don't think that's a coincidence, right? And largely, most other media outlets are ignoring this, right? Brian Kings X7 is here and says, really enjoyed your simulcast with Clyde. Sorry I missed it live, had to work. No worries. Work comes first. You were great, Mr. Savvy Steve. Yes, thank you. And I do want to mention to the viewers that we, I guess out of an overabundance of excitement, decided to broadcast that here as well. But maybe in the future for guest spots, I won't be doing that, because one person did comment to me, and they were right, that like, I enjoyed the show, Stephen, but everything that you've said, I've already learned from you on previous shows. And that's true. But remember, when I'm going to another show, I'm going to repeat certain facts and things we've uncovered in our investigations here for the benefit of their audience who probably haven't heard those things before. But thank you very much, Brian Kings X7, for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. It is much, much appreciated. Banana says, imagine how good the Coke must be in the White House. Yeah, they got the good stuff, don't you think? I think they got the good stuff, right? I don't know. I grew up in the city where you almost, when I was growing up, and even later when I was in the music business, you almost never saw powdered Coke. People offered you crack all the time, but nobody, no thanks. You want to smoke some crack, Stephen? No thanks. No, I'll pass on the crack. Thank you, though. I'll stick with the green. But yeah, the rich people have the good powder coke. They must, right? Yes, the news companies are all owned by the same people. Yeah, that is very, very true. James Taylor, thank you for being a member, says Steve needs to spread the love. Yeah, knowledge is power. Yeah, so we're going to be sharing some things that I shared earlier on my Twitter. You want to be sure to follow me on Twitter at Stephen Cambian. It's a good way to check out the resources that we share here on our show and also keep up to date on the new shows that we'll be doing and more. And thank you, James Taylor, for being a member. We appreciate you very much. And Mr. Ree is here. Thank you for being a member. Yeah. So let's get into this. This is George Knapp. And by the way, let's put our fair use banner up before we do this. This is a transformative work. We're educating the public. So this is certainly covered under fair use. 1 second. Yeah, here we go. We have it here. Fair use banner. We'll be discussing the video that we're critiquing. Therefore, this is certainly covered under fair use. It's also important to note that some of the people that are pushing this story have made millions of dollars selling largely unproven, unprovable, in some cases, provably fake stories for decades. I don't think it's a coincidence. And I think when we evaluate someone's trustworthiness when they're selling a story, remember, these people aren't telling stories. I keep hammering this point. They're not telling the stories. They're selling the stories. There's a big difference. If somebody comes out and they don't want a dime, that's a little differently. I would take that a little differently. Somebody that doesn't have a profit motive versus somebody like, Mr. Knapp here, who certainly has a profit-based motive to sell these stories and pretend they're true. And also, let's be sure that we recognize that Mr. Dave Grush apparently or allegedly already had a documentary deal in place as early as May 15th, which is a full 3 weeks before he ever became public.
Along the way, though, there are significant challenges. There is going to be pushback to that legislation. And you continue to see, although these proclamations from government officials at the Department of Defense about transparency and, oh boy, yeah, we're really answering your questions. You see these proclamations that ring hollow to me. And I'll give you an example. Just this past week, another barrage of crap shot at Lou Elizondo.
Yes. And let's be very clear that George Knapp was one of the promoters of CIA Lou Elizondo's fake narrative of running a government program that never existed. George Knapp was also an early investor in TTSA, something that is extremely ethically problematic for him because George Knapp actively and with great vigor promoted the TTSA techno scam. And he did so with all of his media resources. In other words, while TTSA was soliciting public investor money, George Knapp was an early investor, and he did many stories promoting TTSA, and he never disclosed in those stories that he was an investor. In some journalistic circles, that's enough to get you fired from your job as a journalist. I don't know that Mr. Knapp ever faced any consequences for actively promoting a company that he was an early investor in, but I believe that he should have, and it's extremely slimy. And Mr. Knapp was all chips in on the Lou Elizondo fake narrative that he ran a Pentagon program. Now, let's be very clear. Even Mr. Elizondo himself had to admit that it wasn't a program, it was an activity, something he did in his spare time. But when you lie in a New York Times article and claim you ran a $22 million secret Pentagon government program, people will assume that that was your full-time responsibility and you had many employees working for you, and therefore it was a real program. Not the case. But George Knapp has an complete and total inability to accept responsibility for being wrong. He got the entire Elizondo story wrong. He got the entire TTSA story wrong. Hey, George Knapp, did you ever get a spaceship? You were an early investor. They promised everybody a spaceship, George Knapp. Did you get to ride in the spaceship, George Knapp, while you were promoting them, actively helping them get more public to invest in them as they collected millions of dollars and produced nothing? So now George Knapp is crying that people are saying that ATIP never existed. Hey, George Knapp, why don't you prove it existed before you go on a public live stream like a dummy and pretend that it was real? Why don't you prove it? You can't and you won't, because it was an unfunded activity that this clown, Lou Elizondo, did in his spare time. And you know what? I think we should all start a new hashtag. Just hashtag get a real job. Once again, the hashtag we should start is hashtag get a real job. And every time one of these losers that has been making their living to the tune of millions of dollars for years and years and years or decades posts anything on social media, we should just reply, hashtag get a real job. You've all made enough money lying to everybody. It's time for you lying scumbags to step aside and let somebody do the job for real. You know, somebody that's actually going to ask real questions, somebody that's not going to have ethical lapses and forget that they're an investor in the company that they're using their jobs to actively promote in the media. How is that even legal? Get a job. And by the way, while we're on that subject, Lou Elizondo hasn't had a real job in 8 years now. I think it's seven or 8 years now. Hasn't had a real job. Every dollar that he gets comes from the UFO community. Isn't it about time that Lou Elizondo get a real job? Go away and get a real job? You've had a nice run, an 8-year vacation living off the UFO community, lying to everyone, manipulating everyone. That time is over. It's time to hashtag get a real job.
Letters that are leaked out of the Pentagon that take another shot and try to question, was ATIP real? Did ATIP study UFOs?
And by the way, I think he's referencing John from the Black Vault's piece in which those weren't leaked from the Pentagon. Nothing was leaked, George Knapp. You can't even get your facts right. Hashtag get a real job, clown, right? He is completely conflating everything. Nothing was leaked from the Pentagon. He's pissed off that John from the Black Vault FOIA'd those documents he got that showed that the government was completely and totally confused as to why a former Pentagon employee was out there in the major media claiming that he ran a program that he didn't, that he ran a program that didn't even exist, that they weren't aware of. Oh, and I've heard the excuses. Oh, no, that guy got accused of, something, so we can't trust him. No, the whole of the Pentagon was confused with Lou Elizondo pretending to run a program that never existed in the major media. So, Knapp is upset that people are saying that Lou Elizondo is a liar. Prove he's not. You're the one that invested in his company, TTSA, which pretty much we know now was a techno scam, investment scam, right? They never delivered on anything they promised investors, and not one investor got any money back. So George Knapp helped them promote their company and their public offering, and all these people were giving money to TTSA. He was the publicity guy for it. He was an early investor. Hey, George Knapp, not one person got their money back from their investment. I've asked 100 times. Email me if you got any money back from your investment in the TTSA techno scam. Email me. Let me know if you got any money back, or even your initial investment back. Somebody just emailed the FCC begging them to find out how they could sell their shares, and it pretty much turns out their shares are worthless. George Knapp helped promote worthless shares of a for-public benefit company that collected millions of dollars, but don't worry, some people did make money. People like Lou Elizondo. How much money did you get out of it, George Knapp? He's upset because people are saying that Lou Elizondo's a liar. Yeah, you backed a liar, clown.
Did Lou Elizondo have anything to do with it? People raising those questions all over again, trying to muddy the waters on Lou, who's, by this point, you can't take back what they've already said. Yes.
You can't take back the lies that were posted about him in the New York Times. You can't take back the completely and totally factually incorrect New York Times article. Yeah. This is the clickbait journalism, the copy paste journalism, the disinformation that I'm talking about. It took 5 years for the record to be corrected, thanks to the work of people like Stephen Greenstreet from the New York Post and a few others. John from the Black Vault, us here, maybe Dark Journalist and a few others raised the alarm bells on Elizondo. Everybody else was all chips in on the lie, including this clown. And he's upset because people are questioning it. Listen, if Lou Elizondo genuinely ran a $22 million Pentagon program, there would not be all this confusion. There would just be confirmation of that. But there isn't, is there? We get a letter from the guy who scammed the public out of $22 million given to his friend to investigate his own ranch in the form of Bob Bigelow and Harry Reid, claiming that program was real. Other than that, they have nothing. They have nothing. And there are several statements from the Pentagon. He had no assigned responsibilities in that program, period. That program was not funded, period. So, of course, people are going to raise questions about Lou Elizondo, the liar, who has been manipulating the public for how long now?
Yes, it was real. Yes, he controlled. He was.
It wasn't real. It was from the land of make-believe. It was real in the land of make-believe, George Knapp.
In control of it, and it was legitimate. And now they try to undercut him again because they know he's getting ready to drop some bombs.
Yeah. Well, oh yeah, he's going to drop some bombs. He's had 8 years. What has he been holding on to for 8 years? Are we really supposed to believe that Lou Elizondo has been sitting on some massive bombs of truth for 8 years now, things that he never talked about? All he's talked about for the last 8 years are those garbage videos that some people say he stole out of the Pentagon with Christopher Mellon, which were never cleared for public release. Why was there no investigation into that? Why was nobody prosecuted? Let me tell you something. If you or I stole videos out of a government facility and then profited from them with book deals, television show deals, speaking engagement deals, we would probably all be prosecuted. But Lou Elizondo has faced, or Christopher Mellon, have faced no consequences for that. And remember that all we got from Lou Elizondo in the past 3 years are 3 blurry, grainy-ass videos that prove nothing. They're worthless. They're completely worthless, largely debunked, right? Like the Go Fast. Oh, look how fast it's going. We even called it the Go Fast. It was going 40 miles an hour. So we're supposed to believe that some clown that worked for the Pentagon ran a $22 million program, but he can't tell how fast an object is going using basic trigonometry that any college level math student could do or computer science student could do. Mick West did it, and then NASA repeated it using the same formulas of trigonometry, proving that that object was going 40 miles an hour. So why do we even care about Lou Elizondo? He's a clown that has been feeding us false information for 8 years, along with these 2 clowns who have been selling a convicted pimp fake scientist as a real government whistleblower. If the whole story starts with, when I was a government scientist, and then we can prove that the guy never was a scientist and his education is completely fake, maybe the guy's story doesn't matter because he's not. The whole story falls apart from the first sentence.
Look, the truth will rise to the surface. I think if everybody, supports this type of thing to try to explore and figure out the legislation, like I hope it passes in the exact form it is.
Yeah, he hopes so. Amazing. And these guys are making millions of dollars promoting and selling lies. And then, of course, we have the stunning revelation from James Comer that some of the so-called whistleblowers failed background checks. In other words, it turns out that those people did not have the clearances they claimed, they didn't work where they claimed, their education wasn't right, or their claimed military credentials were not right. And now it would appear that Ross Coulthard is going to blame Stephen Greer, right? Because Stephen Greer, remember, there's two camps here. We've got the Lou Elizondo camp and we've got the Stephen Greer camp, both disclosure camps, but they hate each other because each of them doesn't like that the other one is sucking up some of the UFO dollars that they think belongs to them. Greer thinks all the UFO money should belong to him. And Elizondo, I have talked to several sources who knew him, and all claimed that Elizondo was always complaining that Stephen Greer and others were making all this money and he wasn't making enough money. So is it really about disclosure, or is it about how much money can he fill his pockets with? It's a clown show. Welcome to this clown show UFO circus. And thank you, Larry Love, for a kind and generous $4.99 big show supporter. They care about Lou because he came in and boosted their profits. He took the scam to the next level. Absolutely. I think you may be correct. You know, that's the golden goose. He gave everybody something to report on and talk about for years, right? Steve Nicholson. George Knapp is Jeremy Corbell's mentor. Yeah, and he always says that. He says that constantly. My mentor, George Knapp. My mentor, George Knapp. My mentor, award-winning journalist. He's a clown. They're all clowns. We're in a clown show. UFO John Doe says, shocking, Lazar and Anjali failed the background checks. Well, Ross Coulthard is claiming that the people who failed the background checks were Greer's whistleblowers who are fake, but his whistleblower is real, right? And by the way, this is one of the UFO circle jerkers, James Falk. That's why he gets the interview with Ross Coulthard. Ross Coulthard will not do an interview here because we'll ask him real questions, and his entire false fake narrative, the entire fake story that he's been pushing for weeks now, will fall apart under the scrutiny of somebody who actually has a brain in their head.
Talking about Jim Comer, he's the chairman of the Oversight Committee. He had this weird comment about background checks on some of the witnesses. Did you see that? And would you know anything about what that is?
Yeah. So remember, Dave Grush doesn't have any firsthand knowledge, but witnesses told him. But then it turns out that some of those witnesses failed their background checks when their claims were being investigated. The first thing you do is a background check. Is their education real? Is their claimed military service real? Did they work where they claimed they worked? Do they have the clearances they worked? Many of them failed the background checks, which means they're full of shit, which means that some of the people that are feeding Grush information are full of it. But here's Ross Coulthard coming in to explain that away and also blame Stephen Greer.
Yeah, I do know that there's been a large number of witnesses that have come forward. Some of them have come forward from Dr. Stephen Greer's Disclosure Project organization. And I think that the people that might have been weeded out included people from that group. I'm told that there are no witnesses in support of Mr. Grush who have been excluded. But I'm happy.
He's told that. Who told you that? Who told you that? Because I'm being told that some of the witnesses of Dave Grush failed the background checks. That's what I'm being told. I could just do that. We can play that game, Ross Coulthard. You're being told none of Grush's witnesses failed the background checks. I'm being told they did. So I guess we're at an impasse, right? But he's going to blame. It's Stephen Greer's fake whistleblowers. Our whistleblowers are real. Everybody's got whistleblowers. By the way, if you want to be a Truthseekers whistleblower, email me at truthseekersshow@gmail.com. We're going to do a whistleblower special. And I want you to come up with the most ridiculous story that you can about aliens and UFOs and seeing crash retrievals and bodies and alien spaceships. Just really go invent, write it out, and come on and blow the whistle. We're going to do a Truthseekers UFO whistleblower special here.
Happy to be proved wrong on that point.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. That's important. Let's see here.
But can I also make the point? It's been explained to me, even though a lot of people have some very negative opinions of Dr. Stephen Greer, including myself, I've got strong doubts about some of the assertions that he's made in the past. I understand that he has actually provided some highly credible witnesses to Congress, and that those witnesses are indeed people with knowledge of the,
I apologize.
That's okay.
I understand that some of those people that have come forward are people with direct knowledge of the legacy UAP program. So
great. Well, will you name them? Because Stephen Greer won't name them. You know, this is all a game of make-believe. Like, I'm being told. You notice how he always says that? I'm being told. I'm aware of. Name your sources, Ross. Ross, fake story, cult art. This is another attempt to manipulate people into believing a artificially generated so-called true story. That's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. And Ross Coulthard has a history of manipulating stories to make them sensational, to make them shocking, to make them sell, to clickbait them, and then he never provides any evidence after he runs off with the money like a thief in the night.
it's a kind of an odd mix what Mr. Greer has provided to the Congress. I don't think he's been as discriminating.
All right.
As perhaps he ought to have been in providing witnesses to give evidence. And when I think Representative Comer has made these comments, I think that, yes, sure, there'll always be a culling of some witnesses, but my understanding is that none of those witnesses that have been culled are witnesses that are people who are substantiating what Mr. Grush says.
Yeah, and who's substantiating so far what Mr. Grush says? Anonymous sources. So again, we play the game. It's you know, trust me, bro. Trust me, bro. And then, of course, Ross Coulthard is now doing an awful lot of backpedaling. And I believe that he is setting us up for the big letdown. Remember, we have talked about this time and time again. How to sell a huge UFO story and make lots of money. First of all, you overpromise. They all do it. They overpromise. And then comes they underdeliver. They all overpromise because you got to hype that story out the wazoo in order to sell it. Big clickbait, sensational titles, huge claims of coming evidence, but then comes the big letdown. You know, like finding out that Dave Grush is talking about an Italian UFO crash and being briefed on it by the United States government, but it's a completely and totally fake story. So why would the government be briefing him about a completely, totally debunked fake story based on fake documents that was added to by a UFO bullshitter that's been involved in other UFO BS stories, right? It makes no sense. This is part of the big letdown that is coming with Dave Grush, I believe. But now, what will come next is the inevitable, the big letdown. So the big letdown is coming. And I believe that Ross Coulthard knows that the big letdown is coming and that we are not going to get any evidence that confirm the possession of non-human intact craft or non-human bodies or anything like that. And therefore, he has to start backpedaling and providing excuses for the big letdown, right? The big letdown is coming, and Ross Coulthard is getting people ready for the big letdown. I believe that he's starting to come up with excuses for what he will say or what excuses he will give when we get the inevitable big letdown and the government says, look, we talked to all these people. We investigated their claims. We have no proof of alien technology or non-human technology. We have no proof of any of this, of any of these claims being made. We have nothing. He's going to blame it on the private aerospace companies. And then he's going to come up with all kinds of excuses for why the private aerospace companies did not have to hand over what they were in possession of to the United States government. And here he is making those excuses already.
What if those private aerospace companies have recovered that technology using private military contractors, as I understand has very much been the case in the last few years?
Remember, what did I say on the previous clip? Listen to the language that Ross Coulthard uses. I understand. I've been told. He will not accept any responsibility for factually incorrect statements that he makes. He's just going to say, that's what I was told. I'm sorry that that was fake, but that's what I was told. I'm sorry that was fake, but that's what I came to understand based on what the witnesses were telling me. He's not going to accept responsibility. And I just want to say this as well. If and when this entire Dave Grush story comes crashing down, Ross Coulthart should be banished from the world of UFOs forever, because that will be two completely and totally 100% factually inaccurate fake stories that he pushed into the UFO community and made tons of money on. The first being the, quote, conclusive proof of alien technology, all confirmed by this man, cut to a shot of Michio Kaku. And now we have this story. And you see, there was no consequences for him selling that last fake story. So, of course he's going to do it again. Of course he's going to sell another fake story. And, you know, I still hold out some hope that this story isn't fake and we will get some kind of evidence or proof. But as time goes on, remember, we're a month into this story now. Where's the evidence? Fantastical claims were made a month ago. There's no evidence. It's been a month. Not one single shred of verifiable evidence has been presented. Unless you count, oh, this other anonymous source said the same stuff. People have been saying this stuff for decades. I'm aware of, you know, Robert Sarbacher in the 80s said this stuff to Stanton Friedman. He talked to me about it. Same stuff. We're in possession of intact, downed or landed or crashed UFO, alien spacecraft, and even bodies. And Robert Sarbacher told that to Stanton Friedman in the 1980s. So these are not new claims, but one thing is for sure, despite all the people making these claims, we have never gotten any verifiable proof or evidence that everybody or anybody making these claims is being truthful. No verification, no actual verifiable evidence. So the fact that multiple people are saying the same thing is not proof. Oh, come on. I should just let the clip play. It's only a 2-minute clip. Give me a break.
What if it's been entirely recovered by those private aerospace companies, perhaps in collaboration?
Yeah, perhaps in collaboration with the United States government. So he is making excuses for why we're not going to get any evidence here. He is making excuses for why the aerospace companies will be to blame, right? And then we'll get, I'm sure we'll get claims of recovery.
But they've spent all the money and all the resources on doing that. Shouldn't they ought properly to have the rights to that technology? I mean, imagine hypothetically if it is true. Just imagine if it is true that, say...
of course, he's going to blame Lockheed Martin. Oh, I'm sorry for the buffering, friends.
Lockheed Martin, let's say Lockheed Martin has a spacecraft. Let's say they've got a perfectly operating flying saucer from, say, I don't know, Kingman, Texas, sitting on blocks somewhere in a cave, sitting in a private facility somewhere. Why do they have to give that technology knowledge to the Congress? And why should they? They're a private aerospace company. They've got every reason to want to develop an advantage over their corporate rivals.
Even if that company was dealing with the government?
Well, that's the issue. The issue is I've spoken to people at a very high level in Silicon Valley who have resources and money, who are very angry that they believe technology was vested into private aerospace companies 50, 60 years ago when they didn't exist. And they're now aware of this. And what they're not angry about is that the public don't know about it. What they're angry about is that they've not been cut into it. That's what's going on here. And it may all sound like a wacky conspiracy theory, but let's see it investigated. Grush has made these claims. He has risked his career. He's risked his security classification to come forward and give evidence. And he's done it by the book.
He still has those security classifications?
He does.
Oh.
All right. So what we have is Mr. Coulthart beginning to make excuses for why we might not get evidence. And by the way, I just want to say, I like Kirk Jemungle's show when he talks about science, but Kirk Jemungle, don't host any more UFO grifters because you're doing more harm than good. I did think at some point that it was good. You know, I think when he started hosting some of these UFO people, he would accept questions from more critical minded people. And that would be the only opportunity anybody had to critically question these grifters. But now he's not doing that. Now he's doing the circle jerk. No offense, Kirk, but you need to stay away from UFOs. If all you're going to do is let people come on your show and lie for 4 hours straight, like this guy does, and you're not going to mention to your audience, Kirk Jemungle never mentioned to his audience that Ross Coulthard has been caught selling 2 100% huge, provably fake stories before. I think that's relevant. You're just going to let the guy sit there for 4 hours. You're not going to bring up that he sold completely and totally fake stories involving aliens and UFOs before. You know, you're not helping, Kurt. You're all you're doing is helping these people reach more people with lies. And I know that's not what Kurt wants to do, but that's the end result. So I would say, Kurt Jemungle, stop hosting the UFO people, because if you're not going to hold their feet to the fire and you're just going to do the same circle jerk that everybody else does and let them tell their stories largely unchallenged, you're not helping. Now, I haven't listened to the whole 4 hours. I plan on doing that this week. If I have time, maybe we'll cover that. I think it's 4 hours of Ross Coulthard, you know, telling stories. Yeah, James Taylor says his show is excellent otherwise. And B. Baker, I give up. When he does science shows, he does a great job. That's his wheelhouse. But he is, I think that he's a little naive. And Kurt is a very like gentle soul. He's like a nice person, extremely nice to a fault. So nice that he doesn't want to be perceived as being mean to a guest or being rude to a guest. So even when he has a complete and total scammer liar on his show like Stephen Greer, he won't hold their feet to the fire about their past lies. And therefore, he's not helping. He's not helping. All he's doing is giving a huge platform to these scammer, grifter liars to get more victims, right? How many people signed up for Stephen Greer's ridiculous, evidenceless, so-called historic UFO disclosure event based on him pumping that on Kurt Jemungle's huge platform? Probably a lot of people. So, Kurt, you had a lot of people in your audience waste their money on another Stephen Greer money grab. Congratulations. You helped a scammer scam members of your audience out of money for a completely and totally evidence-based, evidenceless-based event that had no evidence but had pretty pictures. You're not helping. You're not helping when you do that. You're helping the grifters, but you're not helping the larger, greater good. So you should just stay away from UFO topics. Stick to science. That's what you do well. Can't take that away from you. I enjoy his science shows. But when it comes to the UFO people, all he's doing is helping these grifters find more victims. And that's not good for anybody, right? Richard Warner says he got yelled at for exposing Linda Moulton Hale. Yes, that was my question, right? Yeah, I believe that he might have. Yeah. Kurt realizing he's been duped. Not nice. Who's paying him? Yeah. Kurt wants the audience. I don't think he cares about the subject at all. Yeah. Well, so, you know, the gloves are off. If Kurt is not going to do the right thing, then I'm going to put him in the same category as all the other UFO circle jerkers. And I really did think he was different than that, right? He will ask them some hard questions, but he's light on them at the same time. Well, I get that it's a balancing act, you know, but I think he's leaning too far into the being nice to them. And you don't have any responsibility to be nice to people who are scamming people. If somebody is provably scamming people, selling fake information, false narratives, you don't have to be nice to them. What rule in the universe says you have to be nice? If somebody was scamming your grandmother out of $500, would you be nice to the scammer while you were talking to them? I wouldn't. I don't think most people would, right? All right, UFO John Doe with a kind and generous $9.99 super chat. Long time show supporter, big time show supporter. Thank you, UFO John Doe, MVP of super chat, saying Stephen Cambion, investigative truth seeker, and my mentor. Good show. Good night, everyone. Well, thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. It is much, much appreciated. Thank you for helping us to praise the cash. And by the way, we'll have there is another fun video from Simon Fly. You know what? I'm just going to play it now before I forget. So we want to take a moment to thank people like UFO John Doe and all you kind and generous super chatters. And while we're at it, we will check in. I will check in here with the PayPal pledgers. Some people prefer, especially if you're going to send a large pledge or bit of support our way. The best way to do that is through PayPal, because they take a lot less than the YouTube does with the super chats. So instructions for how to do that are in the description of the video. And we want to thank, one second, look at that. That's a big one. We want to thank Kent for a kind and generous PayPal pledge of $100 even. No chat room user ID, no message, but we thank you very much for your kindness, your generosity, and your support, Kent. It is much, much appreciated. Very, very generous of you. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. And we want to thank Dwayne for a kind and generous $7.35. Sometimes people get creative with these super chats. And we also want to be sure that we thank Anthony Peterson, who sent a kind and generous $3 PayPal pledge. Says, this is Anthony. I hope we can still get disclosure, but thanks for your work. I'm not holding my breath. Well, thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. And we thank North. They know who they are, for a kind and generous $50 PayPal pledge. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. And we thank Christina for a kind and generous $20 PayPal pledge, who says, thank you for all you do. Praise the cash. Christina D. from California. Well, thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. And we thank Gemma for a kind and generous $1.90 PayPal pledge. Thank you, Gemma. No, there is no note. If you send a PayPal pledge, be sure to just add a note and give us your chat room user ID. We want to thank David, David B, Bethany Benz, praising the cash. Make it so. Kind and generous $5 PayPal pledge. We thank North again for another kind and generous $50 PayPal pledge. And we thank Daniel. Thank you for what you do. Until I found your show a few years ago, I did not understand the extent of all the lies and cherry-picked data that the UFO community relies on and even embraces. I would love to see Erica Lukes and Steve Long back on your show. Peace. Well, thank you all for your kindness, generosity, and support. Spooky with a kind, generous $2 saying, that's my IP. Yeah, IP too. And I have a funny video from my friend Simon Fly here. We want to make sure that we want to thank all of you kind and generous benefactors. We want to thank you Patreon supporters, you channel members. By the way, I realized that I totally missed the show journal for last month. So I'm going to do it either tonight or tomorrow. It will be on Patreon and on the members only section, either late tonight or tomorrow sometime. I appreciate it. And I appreciate your support. We want to thank you Patreon supporters, you Twitch subscribers, you channel members, you super chatters, you PayPal pledgers. Thanks to all of you for helping us to praise the cash, friends. Praise the cash. Praise the cash. Praise the cash. Cash. Praise the cash. Dash. Praise the cash. Praise the cash. Praise the cash. Cash. Praise the cash. Dash. Praise the cash. praise the cash, praise the cash, cash, praise the cash, stash, praise the cash. Then you can get some extra goodies by joining either our Patreon, praise the cash. Then you can get some extra goodies by joining either our Patreon, praise the cash. Then you can get some extra goodies by joining either our Patreon, praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash, cash, praise the cash, stash, praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash, cash, praise the cash, stash, praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash, cash, praise the cash, stash, praise the cash. And you can get some extra goodies by joining either our Patreon, praise the cash. And you can get some extra goodies by joining either our Patreon, praise the cash. And you can get some extra goodies by joining either our Patreon. So praise the cash, friends. Yes, thank you all for your kindness, generosity, and support and helping us to praise the cash. He should have let that clip go, though, because it's join our Patreon or become a YouTube channel member. Oh, is that really who I think it is? And I don't care. Mark Toronto reminding everybody, if you like Stephen's work, please like, share, and subscribe. Watch another one of his videos when even everything helps. Greer and cutting edge physics don't go together. Yeah, I completely and totally agree. So we are going to take a very short break to remind you that we are a viewer-supported show. Some of you were here for that simulcast with Clyde Lewis from Ground Zero, whose show I love, but many of you commented on the fact that there were so many ads. It was like, I think it was 8 minutes of radio or, 8 minutes of content and then 6 minutes of commercials. And then it just repeats for the whole 3 hours, 8 minutes of content, 6 minutes of commercials. We chose a different view here, one that is based on the PBS model. What does that mean? That means that we are a viewer-supported show. We try to keep things as ad-free as possible and just allow people who enjoy the material and content we produce to support us. And that has worked extremely well. And I think it's much better than having commercials every 8 minutes for 6 minutes. So if you like this format and want to keep it as commercial free as possible, not have me doing ad reads for various products every 8 minutes, not that there's anything wrong with that, by the way. That's how some people have to do it to keep their show going. And I fully support anybody making that decision. But for us, we want to keep the show as ad free as possible. Therefore, we do the viewer-supported model like PBS if you enjoy our content. And by the way, our content will always be free. But if you choose to support us and want to see us do bigger, better things, throw a couple of bucks in our hat. Here's our announcer, Ian, to let you know how you can do that.
Truthseekers is a viewer-supported show. Wonderful people like you who enjoy this show send pledges in the form of super chats, super stickers, super thanks, PayPal, or Cash App. Instructions for how to help are in the description. You can also join our Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month you can get extra content. Patreon supporters get a backstage pass, early access to all our production videos before they are distributed publicly, Stephen Campion's music, private writings, a monthly show journal, and more. You can also become a YouTube channel member for $5 a month. A YouTube membership includes all of the Patreon benefits, plus a special members badge, priority reply to video comments, and the live chat, plus a monthly members-only video. We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, for supporting Truthseekers. Thank you for your generosity and support. Truthseekers is a viewer-supported show. Now there's a great way to support these broadcasts and show your support. Please be sure and check out our merchandise store. Links to our 2 merchandise online stores are in the links to this video or podcast. The Amazon storefront ships super quickly in the United States, Great Britain, and in many more places. Amazon may not ship to your country or location. If that's the case, hit our second merchandise link in the description and visit our Redbubble storefront. Merchandise from our Redbubble storefront ships worldwide, but may take longer than Amazon. We've got a great deal of super high quality merchandise for you to choose from, including t-shirts, phone cases, sweatshirts, and even pillows. The feedback from our products have been overwhelmingly great. Quality products and fast shipping. People all over the world are buying some merchandise and showing their support of the show. Praise the cash. Praise the cash. Praise the cash. We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors who are buying some merchandise and helping us to continue this journey. Thanks for being here. This is Truthseekers with your host, Stephen Cambion. Please rate, like, and comment on our videos or podcasts. If you are listening to an audio podcast, please rate us 5 stars to help us rise in the search rankings. If you are watching on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to an audio podcast, we love and appreciate you listeners, but you are missing the live tapings. All our shows are recorded live with video feed. We'd love you to come be a part of our live broadcasts and tapings for the podcast. Head on over to YouTube, click the search tool, the little magnifying glass, put Truthseekers, one word in the search bar, and hit enter. You'll see a strange and mysterious guy with sunglasses. That means you found the channel. Go there, smash the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to receive up-to-date info on our YouTube channel. We welcome you to be a part of our live taping and our chat group during the live broadcasts. Seek the truth. Speak the truth. This is Truthseekers. Truthseekers.
Okay, friends, so we're back, and I have a little bit more time to share with you. We want to thank Conrad Reynolds. Did you know that if you become a YouTube channel member during a live broadcast, we give you a shout out and a big thank you. So thank you, Conrad Reynolds, for your kindness, your generosity, and your support, and for becoming a YouTube channel member. You can go to the members only section now, and there's a great deal of extra goodies, and we thank you for helping us to praise the cash. Praise the cash, friends. We're doing great with this so far. Thank you very much, Conrad Reynolds, new YouTube channel member, helping us to praise the cash. You are most welcome. We thank all of you for your kindness, generosity, and support. And just so everybody is aware, there are 2 levels of monthly support here. There's the Patreon, which is $1 a month, and there is the YouTube channel membership, which is $5 a month. Both you get the same content goodies, extra goodies, but on YouTube you get some extra goodies, like you see that channel member badge, and we try to do priority reply to messages in the comments or messages in the live chat from the members first. Sometimes, honestly, I do a terrible job at that, so please forgive me if we're not doing a good enough job. We try to prioritize the members first. After all, they're the people who are supporting us the most. James Taylor says, trust me, bro, it's the statement of 2023. Yeah, I agree with you. UFO Shane is here. Greer is the truth, and we need to give Linda more money. Yes. No, we don't. She needs our money, Spooky, for lip injections. Yes, could be. Spooky says she needs to retire. Maybe if we get her another 6 million, she will retire. I'll retire if you get me 1 million, right? Yeah. Google charged me £4.99 for membership. I hope they give you the extra, Steve. Well, thank you, James Taylor. I'm not aware of that situation. It's supposed to adjust for the currency changes. So I'm not sure. Yeah, and Michael is here and says, I comment, trust me, bro, on anything Corbell posts on IG. Oh, that's awesome. But you should comment hashtag get a real job. That's what we're going to start doing to these grifters. Every time they post something, just post hashtag get a real job, right? Yes, absolutely. But we thank you all for your kindness and for fighting the good fight. It takes more than me to stand up to these grifters. I think if more people started just hammering them in their comments, they would have some problems. The young folks aren't accustomed to AM radio. I agree, Mega Breyer Patch. It's a different model, and there's a lot of ads. And if you listen to AM radio enough, you just got to get used to it. And what I do is I sort of tune out. I just zone out on the commercials and wait. I try not to listen because I don't want to buy any of that crap yourself tea or any of that stuff. The survival food that they all hawk. And by the way, all those companies have contacted me and all but begged me to fill our show with ads every 10 minutes or 5 minutes with that stuff. And we've chosen not to. And we can continue to do that thanks to the generosity and support of all of our supporters here. And yes, James Taylor says, we are growing in numbers now. Yes, we are, James Taylor. And thank you for being a member as well. Unknown Sender wants me to reach out to Redacted and assist them in covering ufology. I send messages to everybody. I have sent messages to, what are those two called? I can't remember. Is it Breaking Point or something like that? Those two, one's a liberal, one's a conservative. They did a horrible job covering this stuff. And I did send them messages, right? FM radio is the same. Yeah, well, that's the game on the radio. Commercials every 5 minutes, That's what my buddy always says to us. Some of us have real jobs. Yes, the propagation of AM radio at night is quite far. And by the way, I actually looked into getting a license to broadcast on either FM or AM radio. I was going to put a big radio tower in my backyard, and apparently you can't do that in a residential area. So, and it's extremely expensive to get a broadcast license for either FM or AM radio. But one thing I can do is get a ham radio license, and we can broadcast Truthseekers on ham radio, and it might reach all the way around the globe. So I'm looking into that. I happen to have a ham radio transmitter here. That's an antique. It's from my father, and I would love nothing more than to take that ham radio transmitter and put it here in the studio and broadcast our show Truthseekers on the open airwaves of ham radio. And most people with a decent radio would be able to get it, shortwave radio, but still, most receivers, decent radio receivers have that. So I'm still going to look into that. We should create a UFO grifter ETF that tracks the grifting activity in the marketplace. Ticker UFO BS, NASDAQ. Yes, that would be awesome. The survival foods are salty and heavily loaded up with saturated fats. Yeah, I have an apocalypse cabin, and even I don't buy that stuff. I buy dehydrated goods. I buy rice, beans, and other things that I keep in bulk at the cabin. So in the event of an emergency, you might not be too happy with what dinner is every night, but there'll be dinner every night for a year, even if there's no other food available. But I think you're better off buying things in bulk and storing them correctly. I've got 5-gallon buckets of rice and 5-gallon buckets of beans and a bunch of other things, dehydrated vegetable soup, many things that will last forever. And so, you know, this term survival food is sort of trendy now. But the quality of that stuff is usually pretty suspect. I've tried all of it. I don't like, there's two major companies, both of which reached out to me to help, you know, they wanted to put their ads on my show, both of them. And I said, well, send me some samples and I'll try the food. And they sent me samples. No. Yeah, one of them was like really bad hamburger helper. And the other one, I can't remember what they sent me. I think I tried their mac and cheese, and it was like dollar store mac and cheese that you could get anywhere, you know, like, but it didn't require milk. It was just add water. So I have powdered milk as well at the cabin, so I can just use regular box mac and cheese and save myself a lot of hassle. Those survival food companies, in my opinion, are largely not worth it. If you know anything about storing food, you can just buy food like in bulk, like 50-pound bags of rice, 50-pound bags of beans, and things like that. And yes, you can get 50-pound bags of dehydrated things, like a 50-pound bag of dehydrated peppers, a 50-pound bag of dehydrated tomatoes or carrots or corn or whatever. In the event of an emergency or grid down situation, you might not be too happy with what's for dinner, but you'll have something to eat. So at the Apocalypse Cabin, we're well stocked, but it's a DIY world. I do it myself. I don't just buy the prepackaged stuff, because yes, it is loaded with saturated fats. It's loaded with salt and sodium. You don't want that. Yeah, Clayton needs to be a bit more discerning. Thank you, Conrad Reynolds, and thank you for becoming a member and being a member. B. Baker says ham radio would be awesome. I got to get the license, though, B. Baker. So, but, you know, I've always wanted to do that. My dad was big into both CB radio. I grew up with my dad doing CB radio and ham radio. And I was so fascinated, especially first, I was fascinated with the CB radio, but that was very local. So I could talk, we lived by Interstate 95. So I would talk on my father's CB when he wasn't using it. And channel 18 was always where all the truckers were. So I would talk to the truckers. I was like 10 years old. I would key it up and say, like, breaker 18, is there any truckers out there in the Philadelphia area? And people would talk to me, you know, but it was a different world back then. You didn't have to worry about so many creepers as a 10-year-old boy. And I would just talk to strangers, you know, like, well, where are you going? And they would tell me, like, well, I'm taking this load to Florida. I loved it. It was awesome. And then later, I got to sample ham radio, which was even more amazing because you could talk to somebody in Europe right from your house. And that was fascinating to me. But then right after that, I got involved in the BBS scene, which is the pre-internet version of internet, you know, where you dialed up with a modem. And after BBS's and computer system telecommunications, I wasn't as interested in ham or CB radios anymore. Yes, B. Baker says broadcast 24/7. Yeah, we could do that. We could absolutely do that. And I'm going to look into that. Michael B. says, dude, you are looking good. No homo, but stop drinking and eating clean will do wonders. Yes. And I meant to mention this. This is my third week now. I started a new diet. I started the carnivore diet, and I'm down about 8 pounds in 3 weeks. But of course, I have to say, first of all, I'm not a doctor. Always consult your doctor before starting any kind of diet plan or exercise plan. I'm just going to relay my personal experience. So for the past 3 weeks, I did two things. I changed to the carnivore diet. I was already trying to eat low carb, but it just doesn't work because everything that I like is carbs. I like pasta. I like rice. I like noodles. I like, pizza. I like bread, cookies, crackers. Everything that tastes good is carbs, chips, so I cut all of that. And for the last 3 weeks, all I have eaten is meat. That's it. And I mean just meat. I'm not even putting ketchup on things, nothing. And I also cut my sugar intake. The only sugar that I intake is tea. In the morning, I have hot tea, and the rest of the day, I have iced tea. So I cut the sugar that I usually put in these huge cups of tea in half, and I've just eaten nothing but meat. So what I like about this diet is it's extremely easy. If I happen to be out and about and I'm really hungry and I can't wait till I get home, I just stop somewhere and I buy beef jerky. You can get beef jerky literally anywhere. And so it does seem counterintuitive, though, like that this could be healthy for you, because I've been eating steaks, sausages, hamburgers, but no bun, and really no condiments. I'm just like eating ground meat, ground pork. But mostly I've been eating steaks. I've been eating, you're supposed to eat fatty things, so I'm not eating chicken breast. I did a few times, but that's not really great. You should be eating fatty meat. So pork sausage, I had some ribs. I'm eating a lot of bacon. And I got to tell you, I'm going to keep it going for a few more months because I feel great. I'm sleeping better. I think that it's sort of simplified eating for me. I like dinner is a couple of steaks or dinner is whatever. But one thing that I did change is I used to only eat once a day. And I have the bad habit of eating late at night. Like I'll finish the show. Right now it's almost 11:30 p.m. Sometimes I finish the show 11:30 or midnight, and then I would eat and then go to bed. It's not good for you. So I'm trying to eat early in the day, but then I'm having trouble making it through. Oh, eggs. I'm eating a lot of eggs, which I'm not really an egg guy, but it's protein and fat, and it's cheap, and it's easy. So 3 weeks now, carnivore diet. I got to tell you, I think it's great. And, I'm getting those love handles. I draw the line at man boobs. As soon as I start putting on enough weight that I start seeing man boobs, it's time to diet again. So, and the other change that I made is I got I got a used mountain bike from a friend. And I've been pedaling my ass off every day I try to do an hour. Sometimes I don't have time. And I have my kids all day. So my wife gets home at 6. I'm doing the show at 9 p.m. At 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes I'm out there pedaling my ass off. But I'm down, I think, 5 to 8 pounds in 3 weeks. The scale moves around a little bit. I'd like to lose another 10 pounds. And that will probably return me to the lean, mean, skinny me, which I haven't seen since pre-pandemic. Like a lot of people, I saw a study that said most people gain 22 to 30 pounds over the pandemic. And if you gain that much weight, it's all fat. So you got fat. And my whole life I've been known as like very skinny. I've always been thin. So it's kind of odd for me to start seeing my dad bod on me, my dad was a big guy, had a big belly his whole life, looked like Santa Claus, except for no beard. But it was time to make a change. So for the past 3 weeks, I've been doing this carnivore diet. I can tell you that I'm sleeping much better. I feel much better, less fatigued. I feel like I have more energy. I don't see any downside except for maybe, colon cancer down the road. My doctor said, just do that for 3 months. Don't do it for any more than 3 months. And then start reintroducing, salads and vegetables, but stay away from the carbs. So, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I think that that's a good diet for short-term weight loss. Oh, thank you. Christina Diaz just became a member. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. We appreciate you doing that. And just so everybody's aware, if you become a YouTube channel member during a live broadcast, we give you a shout out and a big thank you. Thank you, Christina Diaz. Now you got that membership badge. You can go to the members only section and watch lots of extra video goodies just for members. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. Mark Tarana says, we have a UHFCB repeater station to increase the range in Australia. That's interesting. Steve Nicholson says, Stephen, you are still talking to strangers to this day. Yeah, I'm fascinated by doing stuff like that. I think it's fun. When I was a kid, I also used to find random computers and try to dial into them with something called a ward dialer. Look that up. probably could have gotten in some trouble for that, but that's many years ago. So yeah, don't you have to worry about salt with that kind of diet though? Says higher than a mug. A mug. Yes. Most people on this diet do one of two things. Either you salt your food very good. I'm using Himalayan sea salt, the pink kind. Or you take these electrolyte packets, you put it in water, or they sell this bottle with drops. I'm told that some people experience some flu-like symptoms when they switch to this diet. I haven't experienced any negative symptoms like that. Was also told by a friend that if you start feeling fatigued or something, that probably means you have low electrolytes and you should do something about that. When I do the exercise on the bike for an hour, I drink a Gatorade, which is filled with electrolytes. Sometime throughout the day, I try to drink another one. I haven't ordered or bought any of those electrolyte packets. It's on my list. I should do that just to be sure. I'm also, and again, remember, I'm not a doctor. Before you guys do anything, go consult your doctor. Everybody's body is different, will react to dietary changes or exercise changes differently. Always consult your doctor. Don't listen to me. I'm just recounting personal experience. But I think that so far it's been good. I haven't experienced any negative symptoms. And I like things simple, Hayya Denimug, and I don't have to think about what I'm eating. I just know I can only eat meat, and that's it. And it's going well for me. I feel very good. I feel energized. I'm waking up earlier in the morning. I'm going to bed and sleeping through the night better. I don't see any downside so far, but I still worry that it's not a good long-term diet. So I'm going to do it. I've committed to myself that I'm going to do it for 90 days. And I'm hopeful that I will lose whatever weight I want to lose within that 90-day window. And then I'll go back to a more varied diet. And by the way, the one side effect that I never thought I'd have to deal with is I remember my wife was eating a Caesar salad, and I have never wanted to eat a Caesar salad so bad as I do right now, or any salad. She was eating a different salad or something, and I'm looking at the salad like, I guess your body is craving those things that you're missing. So after about 90 days on this diet, I do plan to put back in salads and greens, but no, I'm going to try to stay away from the carbs. Spooky says, I miss Taco Bell deeply. Well, on my cheat day, Spooky, I'm going to eat just meat and cheese and one flour tortilla. I'm going to eat some tacos. I don't think eating a couple of flour tortillas that do have carbs in them are going to be that big of an issue, right? I love how you did the walls in your cabin, Stephen. Those exposed logs ends look so cool. Yeah, and I'm going to be building we had some major storm damage. Something called a knee wall in the sunroom fell down. We had all this hail, and it shook the building so much that this little wall that I put up to straighten out. Anyway, I'll show some pictures because it's hard to explain. So I finished the bathroom in the cabin. The sunroom was more or less done, but then a wall fell down. So I put that all back together. It took me over the weekend. I got a lot done over the weekend because I finished up some things in the bathroom. I cleaned the yard in the cabin. There's always a big pile of wood out in the front of the cabin because some of my neighbors or friends know that I need firewood. So if they have a tree come down or something, they'll just limb it and bring it over and drop it in my yard. I got all that cleaned up. We got plenty of firewood for this coming winter already, and it's way early to have that firewood shed so full. So I cleaned up the yard, I cleaned up the playground area, I fixed this sunroom, and now next weekend I'm hopeful, if not this weekend, the following, we're going to get started on building the porch. Then after that, I might build one more addition out the back for a bedroom or a studio or something like that. But thank you, Ganja73. Clowns are hard on your cholesterol. Question about TTSA. Did they file with SEC for private placement offering or something? Curious to know the particulars. I work in Wall Street finance. They never IPO'd. It's a public benefit corporation, which is a new kind of filing, Michael, and you would probably know more about that. But they were able to take public investment and sell shares. So it wasn't a private company or an IPO. It's something new called a public benefit corporation. And it's very shady. And even a member of Congress, and I think, or was it the Senate, somebody in government during an open government hearing mentioned them as the reason that the laws need to change because it's shady what they did. Essentially, they started a public benefit company. Then Tom DeLonge somehow transferred all of his business debt into this one particular entity, then took investment money and used investment money to pay off previous debts, if I'm getting what happened right. But one thing is for sure, Michael, no one who invested in TTSA ever got their initial investment back, let alone made any money on their investment. So it's a real problem. I'd appreciate it if you, with your knowledge and experience, could look into it more deeply and maybe come on here and talk about exactly what happened, what they did. Maybe we could go over their financials. We did that once before, but it's been some time. Taco Bell equals bathroom boom. Yes, I believe that. We all love listening to you. It was such a random discovery of truth. Pressure on the kidneys also. Yeah, I don't know that it's a great long-term solution, though. I have a friend that has been on it for, I think he said 2 years, and he was huge. He lost like 120 pounds, and he also started lifting weights. So he went from like a big fat guy to like Mr. Muscles now. He looks great, feels great. I just know I really needed to lose like 10 or 15 pounds, and I have no patience. And so my friend said, "Oh, you could take that off in a couple of months doing this and exercising." Good. So I go, "All right, let's give it a try." And I think I'm down 5 to 8 pounds. I don't know, the scale, it's a little wonky. We don't have a great scale here. So, what is good cooked on a campfire? Freshly caught trout. Yeah, we do it every year. Trolly troll troll. And thanks for being a member. I get a trout stamp every year. And there is a stream nearby me that's just filled with trout. And I get my limit, and then we go have a fish fry. Usually I fry it, breaded and fried, but I guess I'll be just grilling it now without the breading. Salt equals blood pressure. Yeah. Stop it with the pink salt. It's from Pakistan. Try Celtic salt. Celtic salt, it has 82 minerals and has a savory taste. Conrad Reynolds, I'll look into that. I am a connoisseur of salt. We have a bunch of different kinds. We have salt, sea salt from Israel. We have some other kind of weird salt from the Balkans. I have Polish salt, and we have the Himalayan sea salt, which I don't know about Pakistan. I think mine is from the Himalayas. Is the Himalayas go through Pakistan? I guess. I don't know. I don't know where the pink stuff comes from. But I was told that the pink stuff is good for you. See, there's so much information out there about nutrition. You never know. Like, for example, olive oil. Some people say it's the greatest thing you could do for your body is ingest olive oil. Other people say, oh, no, your body wasn't meant to take in that much oil from an olive, and it's not natural, and it's processed, and it's not good for you. So who knows? There's a lot of information. James Taylor says, just eat anything but meat. I was a vegetarian for like a year, and I felt terrible. I felt tired. I felt low energy. I felt sickly all the time. I didn't adjust well to being a vegetarian, and that might have been my lack of knowledge or experience or how to get enough protein or something. But I also felt like I was always hungry. I was always hungry when I was on a vegetarian diet. And I mean a strict vegetarian diet, no animal products at all. So have you tried resveratrol? Anyone? Hand pink waving. Hi, Stephen. Maybe try having an apple day where you come off your meat diet. It will reset your metabolic weight, and fiber helps too. Good luck. Yeah, I do kind of miss fruit. You know, I wasn't big on eating fruit until I wasn't allowed to eat it. I saw my son eating an apple the other day, and he was like chomping away at this apple, and it just seemed like he was really enjoying the apple. And I was like, damn, I can't eat one, you know? Closing eyes now, 426. Yeah. Too early to have the woodshed full. No, it's never too early to have the woodshed full. In fact, I'm thinking about doubling our woodshed. I'm going to build another shed off the back of the current woodshed, and we're going to fill that one too. Remember, the cabin is completely powered by wood. I've got wood cook stove in the kitchen. I've got a wood stove in the living room that heats the whole place, and I cook on in the winter. And there's a wood stove in the sunroom even. And we're probably going to build a wood-fired 12-volt generator. So we need all the wood that we could get. And also for building projects, remember. It's a great renewable resource. I'm a big supporter of wood. Oh, I did not know this. Michael says, I used to trade options, so equity research is not my area of expertise, to be honest. I don't have that deep type of analysis. Briefly look at some of the SEC docs, though. TLDR, the equity is the product. Yeah. Amy Collins is here and says, tried that vegetarian thing. I could have committed a felony to get a steak after about 2 weeks. Not my rabbit hole says can't do the vegetarian thing either. Yeah. I get it, Terry. But if you want to lose some weight, I highly recommend. Oh man, I shouldn't tell a woman that. Not that I'm saying you need to, but if you want to lose some weight, I think look up on YouTube the results that people get with this carnivore diet. Selling the dream of getting rich by hitting a 10-bagger on your stock investment. Yeah, that's what a lot of investment stuff is. Cats are not vegan. Bet I'll like Celtic salt. I'm kind of a connoisseur when it comes to spices and salt, so I'm for sure. If you could get it on Amazon, I'll order some tonight. I'll let you know what I think. James Taylor, I think, commenting on TTSA, says they need investigating without a doubt. Absolutely. Amy Collins, if anyone can still use a Captain Crunch whistle to make long-distance calls overseas. Pardon me. I will be impressed. Yes, Amy Collins. That's called freaking. And I used to do stuff like that when I was a kid. And for those who never heard the story, there's a famous story that there was a whistle that was very common in Captain Crunch cereal boxes that you could blow, and you could blow it into the phone, and it had the perfect tone that would tell the payphone to let you make any calls you want for free. So people used to take that whistle to a phone booth, blow into the receiver. It would open the gate, and then you could call Europe for free. And that was called freaking, right? Oh, no, Randy said never too early to have the woodshed full. I thought you said too early. Yeah. Take a double shot of wheatgrass and carrot juice every other day. That will clean you out so you can lose weight. I'm not a fan of wheatgrass. Carrot juice I can stomach, but wheatgrass juice? Do they sell that on Amazon? Wheatgrass juice? A double shot of wheatgrass juice and carrot juice every other day. So I'm supposed to take 2 shots of wheatgrass and 2 shots of carrot juice? Really? Yeah, James Taylor, we played it earlier. Well, we played a music video that included a shot of Grush with all the others at the UFO convention. Yeah, so he's been UFO guys. He's been hanging out with UFO guys for quite some time before he came out. Welcome, Lisa Savoy. Little late, we'll be wrapping things up here. No, it has to be fresh. No, I don't even have a juicer right now, Steve Nicholson. Carrot juice worked great for Steve Jobs. Oh, no, it didn't. Yeah. Yeah, that's a tragic story of a guy who had more money than sense. He should have listened to his doctors. If he had treated his pancreatic cancer very early when they told him to, he might still be alive today. But he was convinced in some kind of natural cures or vegan diet could cure his cancer. It's a pretty sad story. Pretty sad, especially because he had a wife and children, you know, like me. I'm going to listen to the doctors. I don't think it's a good, I think if you're already being treated by doctors, doing some natural remedies isn't going to hurt, right? It might help your mindset too, but I don't know that just doing that is ever a good idea, right? All right, so we have done our due diligence for today, friends, and I will be back with you all tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I got another great show for you, and then we have a short week, so I have to try to figure out how I'm going to jam one more live show in the week. If I have to do one from the cabin, I'll do one from the cabin, but we will do 3 live shows this week, as I have committed to 3 live shows over the summer. Also wanted to mention that we talked about getting these Truthseekers classics together and just doing a show every night at 9 p.m. 3 or 4 nights a week will be me here live and in the flesh doing the show, new show live, and the other days of the week will be my favorite Truthseekers classic episodes, also broadcasting at 9 p.m. but being replays. And we're going to label those TS classics, and I'll put something, I'll pin in the live chat that it's a rebroadcast, because somehow people get so like confused or upset, like, oh, this is just a replay, or, like, oh, okay, it's summertime. The purpose of reruns is to allow the performers of the show to have some time off. So I'm going to be doing that. Most people will appreciate the ones that I picked. We have something like 700 live shows in our catalog here, or more. I don't know. I haven't counted in a while. Let's check. Or it could be wrong. I don't know how many we have. We have hundreds of live shows in our back catalog, and many of which many people have not seen. People sort of ignore the older live shows. Oh no, we have 998 live shows in our catalog here. So you couldn't have seen them all, and there's a lot of good old interviews in there and good gems. So I'm going to pick my favorite. We'll be doing some rebroadcasting just to keep people coming here every night at 9 p.m. Mark Toronto reminding people, if you like Steven's work, please like, share, and subscribe. Watch another one of his videos even. Everything helps. Yes, the algorithm loves it if you would go to our live section and watch one more live show, right? It would really be helpful, because then they turn up the dials, because they say this guy makes good content because that person went to one live show, then they went and they watched another of his previous live shows. So for some reason, they turn up the dials for us when you do that. So I would immensely appreciate you helping us out by watching one more show. I just don't understand how people fall for some UFO stuff, is that they don't have anything else and they just want to believe in something. Yeah, Michael, it becomes a religion for some people. Wusha, let's do Anjali again. Oh, that's on my list. That's on my list, Wusha. We're definitely going to do that. Thanks for the show. Always look forward to coming here and listening to what you have to say. And I look forward to seeing you here, Michael. Thank you for being here. Glad that you found us. I couldn't get the wheatgrass taste out of my mouth no matter what I tried. Thank you, Robbie D, for being a YouTube channel member. And I agree with you. I think I tried that once. Somebody gave me some of it, and I was like, nope, not eating wheatgrass. Not drinking it either. Oh, yeah, the 1,000th episode. Well, tomorrow will be the 999th episode, so now we have to do a 1,000-episode special, and we're going to do that from the cabin, it looks like. I think that would be a great idea. Good idea. We will do a 1,000th live show celebration from the cabin. Put together top 10 or 20 live shows. Yeah, we're going to start a new section in the main YouTube channel that just says TS Classics, Truthseekers Classics. I have a few more on this Sarah R. Adams we're going to do next. And then after that, I have some other great original classic episodes that we will be airing. So, and I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. We want to thank you, kind and generous benefactors, you Patreon supporters, you YouTube channel members, you Twitch subscribers, and also you PayPal pledgers, you super chatters, super sticker purchasers, and especially thank you people who hit that super thanks button. Did you know you could throw a couple of bucks in our hat, even if you're watching a replay? Just hit that thanks button, put in any amount you wish. I always do my very best to reply and thank each and every one of you doing that. I really, really appreciate the support. So we have done our due diligence. I'm going to bounce on out of here, friends, but I'll be bouncing back here at 9 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow night, and I hope you will bounce back with me. Until next time, friends, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you.